Under the sea,
Me.
under the sea.
Ignorant as fuck.
There'll be no confrontations, just friendly conversations under the sea.
This is what fucks me up. Fucking fuck off. I talk to you stupid cunts, and little sons of little mini cunt prick you. You know that? I think that's a rip-off.
You're joking me of Little Mermaid.
Oh, no, I'm getting the theme tune between Flipper and Skippy mixed up in my head, right? Flipper, the bush kangaroo. So that's what I'm thinking.
It's
but I know
Skippy.
No, it's
Skippy. Oh, no, what is it? They call him Skip. They call him.
Flipper.
No, shut up.
They call him Flipper.
Stop it.
Flipper.
They call him Skippy.
They call him Skippy.
Skippy, the bush kangaroo. Oh, shit. I've lost it.
Yes.
Skippy.
They're so close.
Skippy,
Flipper,
the bush kangaroo.
Flipper.
Fuck yeah. That's so annoying.
The best bits.
I'll use small words that you'll be sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
You are stupid, you have no taste, a lousy sense of humor, and you smell.
Don't call me stupid.
I understood every syllable of that.
And I'm joined once again by a writer of 3 films, a Christmas special, and a Star Wars, Will Collins. How are you, Will?
Oh.
You're looking very sexy in that Speedo.
Oh, well, listen, I'm so glad you like it. I'm wearing specifically over my head just so you can see it.
Will, we're talking about underwater scenes. I love the sea and I love being underwater particularly, which sounds like a strange thing to say, but I genuinely find it one of the most transcendent experiences that I've had in life. And I love this topic. This one, of course, was recommended to us by a listener. Jules wrote in. Thank you, Jules. Will, give me a brief overview. What do you think of this topic? Where's your head at? How did you find researching and prepping for this episode?
Well, first of all, I'm one of these
make it
people
quick, please.
who I'm the opposite of you. I find myself being a little bit anxious of the water, and I'm not that comfortable in the water. It elicited a lot of anxiety in me.
What did?
Watching scenes of people underwater for too long, because I get that sense of you need to be up top breathing right now, even if they're using rebreathers or whatever. I'm going, that's going to fall out of your mouth any second. Something's going to pop off and you are going to suffocate and drown and have your lungs filled with seawater and you will be dead. Dead. So get the hell out of there and get back to land where you should be. We evolved from that place. So I'm constantly feeling a little bit of anxious. So they make me feel really, really tense and anxious. That's what these scenes do.
Do you ever hold your breath while you're watching the scenes?
I did that, but Karen had to wake me up several times because I passed out.
So you did it recently?
Do you? Yeah,
I would have done as a
night.
kid. I can hold my breath quite long. I can hold my breath for at least 2.5 minutes, which without practicing is quite a long time. Of course, I have to be completely still when I do it. But I wouldn't be able to like dive underwater and swim around holding my breath. But I can. And we used to do it in school. You know, you'd have to do holding your breath exercises. And,
Really?
we did. Didn't you do that up in... Oh, you were in Cork as well.
What are you talking about?
Did you even have a swimming pool at your school?
Oh, la-di-da, a swimming pool at my school. Ooh. We had a puddle.
I'm sure you did.
We had a place.
Full of piss.
We had a yard. Yeah, that's what it was. We didn't have a swimming pool.
No, but you didn't do that at school. You didn't sort of learn survival techniques. Treading water, diving underwater to pick up a brick or whatever.
No.
You didn't do any of that.
What are you talking about? They just sent the survival techniques. Go out there and here's a stick and go out and milk a cow.
Here's a fucking...
Go to that field and herd the cow. That's your...
A troll.
Don't turn your back on the cow. That was the survival. No, Kevin. No. You lived in the first world. I obviously lived in some other... I grew up on some other planet.
Cork.
You did survival techniques.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
You swim to the bottom of the pool.
When I was about 9, I think we were 8 or 9.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It wouldn't be like the
I'll say
Marines, no. You wouldn't be diving in like with your full fucking clothes on you and sort of like seeing how you can keep yourself buoyant in a pair of jeans. But no, we would do like, how if you were in the water, how you would keep yourself buoyant and I remember beating everybody out by being able to hold my breath a lot longer than everyone else. And that sort of gave me confidence to take to swimming. And then, of course, when I was backpacking and sort of ticking boxes and on my bucket list, I went scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah.
And yeah, I fucking loved it. I immediately felt like I was in an alien world and it was so peaceful. And I don't find underwater scenes scary at all, except for a couple that I'm going to mention. But yeah, I love being underwater.
Can I ask you a specific scuba diving question, right? This is totally off topic, but this is something that pops into my head every time I see a scene where they have those, they're called rebreathers, aren't they? The breathing things they put into their mouth. Okay, so did you scuba dive with one of those things that you jam it into your mouth?
You don't jam it into your mouth.
This is what I have to
ask. It fits in your mouth. You sort of, it's ergonomically fitted to sort of be in your mouth. So it's not like you're struggling to hold it.
So it's like a gum shield, is it? Is it like a gum shield? You put it in, it's between your lips and your teeth.
Yes, you're. I'd have to look at my pictures now again to be 100% sure. But you do all the practice runs of taking it out of your mouth and, you know, having to put it back in while you're underwater in case it falls out, or, you know, getting water out of your goggles and stuff.
I'm sorry, this is such a specific thing. This is off topic. So, you know, in these movies, they always, if they have one of those things, the mask, that rebreather always pops out. And they're like going, and someone comes along and gives them their rebreather and stuffs it into their mouth. How do you, I assume, if your mouth is full of water, how do you start breathing? Like, you know, how do you get the water that's in your mouth out so that you can actually start breathing the water, the air that's coming through the rebreather? Do you just start breathing? Like, you know, I assume if one pops out of your mouth, water's going to get into your mouth, even when you do the act of putting it in. But even when you do the act of putting
no
the
more water than if you're brushing your teeth, and all you do is just push it out. Yes, you just spit it out. Well, if there's so much water in your mouth, then that's you're drowning. You're drowning at that stage. So you don't inhale water once you take it out, because every instinct in your body is not to inhale water. So it's something that you can't do voluntarily. Okay.
Imagine, I know I'm burning time. You can cut all this if you want.
As soon as your rebreather comes out of your mouth, you're holding your breath.
Yeah.
It's a natural response.
But as soon as you're holding your breath, right? Remember to close, I'm holding my breath, right? I've got the rebreather. I need to put it back into my mouth. Mm-hmm. To put it back into my mouth, I'm underwater. I have to open my mouth, right? Mm-hmm. As soon as I open my mouth, I'm underwater. Water's gushing in.
And you blow out
for a fraction of a second.
You blow out.
So you go. So you actually physically blow out while you have the rebreather in your mouth, and the water goes out through the rebreather.
Yes, because you have to breathe out underwater. You're not just constantly inhaling. You're also breathing out. So the water comes out of your mouth. You're never going to have so much water in your mouth that you're in danger of inhaling it and choking.
That's what I was afraid. That's what I always worry about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we did it and it was fine, but I think everybody thinks that the first time they do it. But no, we've had this technology since the 50s. So everyone has sort of refined it and gotten better at it. But, you know, you can also condition your body to hold your breath a long, long time. And some actors, I'm segueing us back onto that. Some actors have actually pulled off some incredible feats. I think Kate Winslet on Avatar 2 was saying recently that she can hold her breath for 6 minutes. So it is doable. Right. But again, you have to stop your body expending energy, because that's when you're going to need air quicker.
Okay. I'm going to ask you right? Because you put the question to me and I'm going to throw it back to you. How do you feel when you watch these scenes, these underwater scenes? What sort of emotions does it elicit in you? I know it's all different from film to film and scene to scene.
Arousal.
Do you watch it and kind of do you watch it and kind of go, oh, you lucky bastards? Whereas I'm watching, I'm not going, you're going to die. You know what I mean? I'm watching it and I have these kind of like panicky kind of thoughts, even though it looks really graceful and nice and all that sort of stuff. I'm going, no. Even if, nice scenes, I get panicky thoughts. Do you feel differently?
I don't feel one way or the other. I will say that there are two things that will instantly trigger that sort of primal response to, I don't like that. And it's treading water, being on the surface of the water and not knowing what's underneath you. That always gives me the willies. I mean, that's such an ingrained limbic system response that even if you're in a swimming pool, you can trick yourself into giving yourself the shivers by just imagining there's something in the pool under you. A shark, for instance.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I don't like it. I got to get out. So that is easy to respond to. But if I'm under the water, I'm brought back to how incredibly alien and peaceful, and it's like dreaming. You are completely weightless. You're gliding. It's so quiet. And these fish are swimming around you and they are playful and swimming up to you and away from you and looking at you. And it's so, I think it'd be different if I was like in the water with like great white sharks. But as I told you before, I have swam with sharks. I swam with white tip and black tip reef sharks. And I just thought they were beautiful.
I think this is
chasing them.
This is a good time to. This is a good time to revisit because you told me this a long time ago in our Jaws commentary, right? And I think for our listeners who probably haven't listened to us, and maybe for me who doesn't remember it, you were talking. This was in Australia.
Yes, Great Barrier Reef.
Tell me about. So you're in the water. Could you see these sharks?
I'll set the scene for you in order to keep us on topic.
Yeah.
We went away out to a specific spot that everybody is permitted to go to on the Great Barrier Reef. So much of that is protected, but there are certain specific spots where particular dive boats and day trippers can go to. We went out there. They gave us bread to take in our hands in these little pouches because that will draw the fish to you. And the water is aquamarine. It's gorgeous. We all just went swimming and they had these fucking huge fish, like fish that were as big as a mini car. And I thought, I'm more scared of those things than I am of these little cat-like sharks. And you couldn't get me out of the water. Yeah, I would just be chasing these little sharks. I'd be diving under and be like, come here to me. And they'd be swimming away and coming back around. And beautiful. Sharks are beautiful looking animals. Like they've got pretty privilege. You just want to look at them. They're so beautiful. And and so
they got dead eyes.
And you didn't believe me that I was swimming sharks, but I was swimming sharks. They're only about 2 to 3 feet long. Not even that. Maybe 2 feet long. There's little things.
The closest I've been to a shark, I think, was I remember being in some aquarium. I might have been over in Coney Island or something like that.
Like standing and looking in.
Oh yeah, standing. That's it's as close. And they had these big fucking sharks swimming around with huge turtles, and the sharks would come around, and these monsters, and they would swim by, and I would not call them beautiful. These fucking it's like for me, they're the sharks that are in Finding Nemo. You know, Bruce and the teeth and the eyes, and they looked horrific.
Well, it depends on the shark, doesn't it? Well, it does. I'm not being funny. It does.
Some of them are pretty. Some of them are hot. You might meet an ugly shark.
Reef sharks are beautiful looking. Yeah. But then you have those fuckers with like the underbites and their teeth are sticking out, or six-gill sharks.
Yeah.
They look
That's the guy I saw.
You didn't see a six-gill shark. They live about 300 years. 300 years. And they're way off in Alaska somewhere. Or Greenland.
Oh no, he was in Coney Island. I met him in Coney Island.
Do you know that fish tanks are like submarines for fish? Think about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, think about that.
Well, they're out in the real world and they're looking around going, oh my God.
Yeah, they're in a little enclosed environment that's keeping them alive, and they're in an environment that they can't survive in. So yeah,
And not by choice.
of course not.
Oh man. Okay. This is fascinating. This actually genuinely is very interesting. So this is a great table setter for this topic.
It is. So we'll be back next week with no. So look, I don't particularly know how to structure this episode, but I will tell you a couple of things to sort of give us a little bit of a history lesson. And one is that the first underwater scenes didn't really pop up until the 40s. And there was a film that I haven't seen, but I was doing my research and I got to watch the sequence itself. And it's from a film called Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid from 1948. It's a mermaid film, and there's a sequence where she dives into this elaborate looking underwater cave structure with all these plants and fish floating around. But they did that by shooting it through a plate glass window. So the camera wasn't in the water, it was outside looking in. It was a way that they were able to put underwater stuff on screen until you got to the 50s and scuba gear. And then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
I didn't think I'd ever see you again. What is it? Burial ceremony under the sea.
That film was shot in 1954 and they shot it in the Bahamas. They used 20 tons of equipment, 6 ships, and loads of captive fish. The studio had to invent this was Disney, they had to invent new methods of filming, so they used an Aquaflex underwater camera, which was state-of-the-art at the time, because they were shooting in CinemaScope. And they were using scuba equipment, which, as I said, was just new technology at the time. And, you can imagine, like, for audiences of the time, that was like seeing an alien planet, because when else are you going to see that?
Yeah.
You're always going to see it with like a scuba mask when you're on the surface looking down, but to be deep underwater and exploring the undersea world.
Never considered, when did they actually start filming underwater? I truly did not know any of this.
Neither did I until 10 minutes ago.
All right. Right.
You know, that land is here with a boat. Yes, that tall one must be the leader. They'd be coming back any moment.
And now so are our listeners.
Yeah, there you go.
This is brilliant.
See, we have Google as well.
So then we had, and I'm just wondering, and maybe you haven't researched this, but I was thinking then of the nature documentaries that obviously spawned all of those nature docs, the Disney nature docs, or that Jacques Cousteau and all this sort of stuff. Didn't he have made all these nature movies?
Yeah.
Underwater.
Using that as a nice segue, nature docs. There's one on my list that I can mention right now, and that is My Octopus Teacher. It was nominated for Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature a couple of years back. I think it's on Netflix, but it's a story of a guy who's living in South Africa and he's dealing with depression.
I remember the day when it all started, seeing this really strange thing. A lot of people say an octopus is like an alien. But the strange thing is, as you get closer to them, you realize that we're very similar in a lot of ways. There's something to learn here. I had to have a radical change in my life. And the only way I knew to do it was to be in this ocean with her. And then I had this crazy idea. What happens if I just went every day?
Well, out scuba diving and out sort of swimming around near where he lives, he discovers a little octopus. And the octopus is very brave and inquisitive, and it becomes familiar with him, starts to trust him. And he, over the course of a year, because octopus only live for about a year, he keeps going back regularly, sometimes once a day, and he sort of has this bond with it. And just the connection of interacting with another species, it pulled him out of his depression, and it gave him a new perspective on life. The majority of it is underwater, and you're seeing him interacting, where he took a GoPro with him, and he is playing with this little creature, because octopus are so intelligent.
Could they do the leave insert?
They couldn't do the leave insert, but then neither could I.
Oh, well, no one's saying that you're intelligent.
I'm very intelligent. My mum says I'm very intelligent. I'm like the smartest by around.
You know what? I've seen clips from this film. I was aware of it, and I just haven't gotten around to watching it. I have now added it to my watch list, and it is on Netflix, so I am definitely going to give that a go.
It's a lovely, sweet, sincere little documentary. And of course, because of that, and because so many people started recommending it, you'll get all the sort of the sneering fucking buys going like, the fellow should get a life. It's a fucking octopus and blah, blah, blah. So fuck those people.
Daddy, chill.
It's a very good documentary, and I hope you enjoy it.
I will watch it. That is for sure. And it's lovely. Actually, it's such an unusual thing. It's like, as you're saying, he's in an alien environment, which is under the sea, and he's talking to a creature, one of the creatures on this planet, which looks the most alien, and creates establishes a bond. It is like Enemy Mine, or like going out into space and actually developing a relationship with an alien creature, which is really cool, really, really cool.
You mentioned there, it's like an alien world under the water, and you know what? Underwater scenes can be so good that they can actually be the best scene in certain films. And one of them was certainly the best scene in Alien 4, Alien Resurrection. Did you ever see that film?
Oh, yeah. I did. I saw it in the cinema, and I cringed through many beats, and particularly the final act. But that underwater scene sticks in my head as being probably the best scene in it. It's very, very good.
That was a scene where I remember watching on video and thinking, could I hold my breath along with the rest of them? And of course, they're bullshitting in that, because they're underwater for about 6 minutes. And I was like, I'm no Margot Robbie, I can't do that. To be honest, if that entire film was the underwater sequence, I would have liked it more. So, yeah. But it's very impressive. And to see the behind the scenes footage of how they done it, and it sounds hellish for actors to shoot stuff underwater, because certain shit gets in the water and it's constantly dumped with chlorine, but also paint flecks and things like that. And so they always get eye infections, and yeah, it seems awful.
I read that Winona Ryder almost drowned when she was a child, so she was not comfortable under the water whatsoever, which I would totally understand. And Ron Perlman almost died, I believe, there was an accident where he couldn't get to his scuba safety diver or whatever in time, and he blacked out or something. But the results do speak for themselves, because there's some images in that sequence which do stick in my head. Like, I think Ron Perlman shoots a weapon or shoots some sort of gun underwater, and and even seeing the alien moving through the water was one of the more unique things about that film.
The CG is more forgiving when it's underwater.
Yeah. Because it's supposed to be weightless.
Yeah, but it's also, you can add in that blur effect, so you're not seeing how shiny and sort of artificial it looks. But yeah, do you know what? I've had 2 genuine experiences where I thought, I'm going to die. I've had a few sort of like close calls, but they weren't experiences where I thought, I'm going to die here. One was when I told you that I was one of the people that made it out of the King's Cross underground fire by missing it by about 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
And then, of course, when we got home, there was like it was like pandemonium. I was like a small kid. I'd just come from Madame Tussauds. But the 2 experiences where I thought, I'm likely going to not make it here, were both in Australia, and they both involved water. And water can be fucking lethal. One was where I was swimming across Lake Fraser. I had been drinking, as you know, you do as a backpacker, and I had just had something to eat, and I thought, me and a couple of others, let's swim from this side over to that side, because it looks a lot closer than it is when you're looking at a lake.
Oh,
and I remember being about 40 full fucking minutes into the swim, halfway across, fully fucking exhausted. And because it was a freshwater lake, there's no buoyancy to it. So as soon as I stopped swimming, I would just sink like a stone.
Oh, Kevin.
And I was on my back for some of it, and I was going in circles. And I remember thinking, I have no strength to keep going, because I couldn't go back at that stage. So I had to keep going. And there was a good 10 minutes of that swim where I thought, I'm going to drown. I'm not going to make it, because I was constantly going under the water.
Oh, Kevin.
And it was fucking terrifying. Got to the other side, legs shaking. I remember when I got to the point where I could actually stand in the water, and I thought, that is one of the stupidest things I've ever done. And of course, everybody else knew it as well. Like all the other backpackers were like, they looked like they were in trouble. There's nothing they could do. None of them could swim out to me. There was no lifeguards there. So it was just a case of like, I hope he makes it across.
In that scenario, I know my reaction if I was with you in that scenario. I would be fucking furious with you. I know I would lose it. I know I would fucking lose it because that was such a stupid thing to do past Kevin. It was a drunk decision, wasn't it?
No, I was sober, but I'd been drinking the night before. So, when you're like, you're getting up the next day and we'd been camping and shit.
Yeah.
So, we're skinny fucking backpackers living off of like sausages and beer. And I'm not one of these people. I get very bored on beaches. I can't just lie there. I can't sunbathe. I get so bored. Give me 5 minutes sunbathing and I'm bored out of my mind.
I can't. The sunbathing is just, honest to God, I don't know who can sunbathe. I have to be doing something. I'm sorry. I have to be. I'll get up. I'll walk over there.
Yeah.
Let me look. Can I investigate? Can I look at crabs? Can I go do something? I just don't want to just lie here. I lie. If we're chatting, it's fine.
The other one was I was on the East Coast and the lifeguards were there at this point. Beautiful beaches. You can only really get in the water up until about, I think it's once you go past Brisbane, they say just stay out of the water because it's fucking dangerous. You've got those jellyfish and sharks and whatever. And I can't remember what beach it was. It wasn't Surfers Paradise, but it wasn't Byron Bay. It was somewhere up along that way. The lifeguards had told everybody not to go into the water because the waves were like 12 feet and they're crashing down. But everybody was going into the water. So I went in. And of course, it's fine once you dive under the wave and you get out and you're sort of swimming around and enjoying that. But then trying to get out of the water and the waves are coming every 15 seconds. And I couldn't swim fast enough to get, ahead of the waves. And I got picked up by a wave, lifted 12 feet into the air and smashed off the sand beneath me.
Jesus.
Like it properly felt like I'd jumped off of a roof and shoulder rammed the floor. Just wind knocked out of me, upside down, spinning, picked up again, slammed down again, picked up again, slammed down. And I was only about like 10 feet from the shore.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't orientate myself and get to level ground fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm fucked here. Like this is what happens. Because I don't know, time moves so slowly when you're underwater. But I managed to make it out. I was fucking bruised and cut up. I'd scraped on my shoulder and stuff. And then when we got back that evening, I think there was 2 girls had drowned further up that beach.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah.
The last time I was in the water.
So there you go.
The last time I'm going to tell you about the first time I was in the water and the last time I was in the water. All right?
We'll talk about films as well, don't worry.
Yeah. So the last time I was in the water was in Malibu, actually.
Malibu,
and
baby.
you were talking about those crashing waves. But you know the way you can tell with a beach if it dips down really quickly, as in even the beach itself is has got a steep incline. That's a pretty good sign there's a riptide there. There's a pretty good sign that, you should maybe not be very, very careful in that. So myself and the lads went out and they were like mad to go into the water. I says, you know what? I need to have a plunge in the old Pacific just to say I've done it. And I went out there and I'm like that. You were saying 10 feet. I only went in a few feet. The boys went out further and I only went in a few feet and the waves were coming down like it felt like a ton of water just being dumped on you. And I was struggling to...
Because it is.
Yeah, I was struggling to keep on my feet because then the undercurrent was just pulling my legs out from underneath me. And I was going, this is not fucking safe. And I actually twinged my back. I was actually injured from a wave hitting me for I had to take medication for about a week afterwards because it was like something twinged when it happened. That's me. I'm like going, no. The first time I was in the water was, you're talking about when your school days, how they took you had a swimming pool and we didn't have that. Kevin, we had a river. Okay.
The Procol Hall Bats. It was like we had to walk up to the swimming pool. It wasn't like in the school.
We had a river. Okay. So I'm just going to reframe that. We didn't have a swimming pool. We had a river. Okay. And I remember...
What, your school had a river?
No, there was a river through the town. And I remember there was some sort of like learning to swim lessons for children during the summertime. And my mother signed me up. And I was like, I don't want to go. And she was like, no, it'll be great. And so me and a bunch of other kids showed up at the river, and there was some instructor in the river, and there was these steps that went down to it, like a very small, like couple of steps that went into the fucking river, and freezing.
Yeah.
And it was all rocks. It was all grimy and sloppy and rocks under feet and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
And
all the algae on the rocks.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I
It's like stepping on a glugger.
they had said, "Oh, come wearing shoes," because it's not that comfortable. So I went wearing my, I must have been growing out of
Heels.
No, I got these Spider-Man shoes. I remember the previous year, I loved these fucking Spider-Man shoes. Absolutely adored them. And I remember we were in the river and there was a bar.
Like plimsolls or like trainers or what?
Oh, whatever. Runners or whatever they were back in the day. Like they were like Spider-Man. They had Spider-Man, the imagery, they're red and blue. And I remember I was holding onto a bar and they were getting the instructor.
To match your underwear.
Absolutely. They were getting us to kick. And I remember kicking. And all of a sudden, someone said, "Who owns that shoe?" And I turned around and I saw that one little red sole just drifting off down the river. And I went, "Spidey! Spidey!" And then a moment later, then I saw the other one popping up and drifting off down the fucking river. And I swear to God, I just went, "That's me in the water. Done. It was cold. My first introduction to water was a horrible experience. It was like going into a cold, horrible river, losing your favorite shoes, and just being forced to do it. I just hated it. I absolutely hated it. So,
do you know that human beings can't feel wetness?
I don't understand.
We can feel a temperature change because of we don't sense wetness.
That
if we're underwater. Underwater, we don't sense wetness.
Well, I'm just going to say, not from personal experience, but I hear that when you piss yourself, you fucking notice it. Maybe you notice the temperature change. Maybe you notice
that's the wet clothes. That's the wet clothes, but you don't notice. If you're underwater, you can't feel wet. So, that's
okay.
That's
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Fun, isn't it?
I've given you so many. Sorry, I've taken you off on tangents. We've only spoken about one underwater scene, probably, or two underwater scenes so far.
Well, we talked about sharks, and one of the iconic scenes that involves a shark, a real shark, and movies is a film that I know that you haven't seen, but it's got a few different names, but it's from Fulci, and it's Zombie Flesh Eaters, and that's a story that's set in the Caribbean where there are zombies, and there's a very famous sequence of a zombie underwater fighting a shark.
Oh my God.
Picture that.
I've never even seen.
If you picture it, you probably remember that. Really? Okay, so it's famous with a lot of people who are into films, unlike Will.
What's it called?
That's
Zombie
Zombie
Flesh Eaters.
Flesh Eaters. It's also called Zombie 2 or Zombie.
No.
But yeah, it's Fulci. The funny thing about that sequence is that Fulci was unaware that it was being shot and he didn't approve of it. And it's like the most famous scene in the film. But yeah, it's got great music, that film, as a lot of those sort of Italian horrors. They've got sort of like a disco-y, synthy like vibe to them. But yeah.
See, I'm not into that. I think there's a certain category of genre lover, and I think the people who love the horror genre are really into the horror genre and go deep, dive deep into all the things. And there's things you have to know about the horror genre. And for me, it's not my genre. So I've never even heard of that filmmaker.
You've never heard of Fulci?
No, never have.
You know, those things are more entertainingly camp and gaudy and Italian.
Right. Okay. Right. I know. I'd be very curious.
If you can imagine, like Eurovision from the 70s, it's like a movie that is adapting that kind of vibe.
No, honestly, I'm open to
praising Colin Kuzagisabu.
Oh yeah, that's great. That is great. No, I'm open to all new, educate about all new things. So I would love to do some sort of program where we do that. Can I give you one that's not a big dramatic? Well, no, not a big kind of like spectacle that it's a long sequence, but I have one that kind of hit me at the time, and when I rewatched it, it still kind of had its effect on me. And it's from a Spielberg film, not the one, not Jaws. Not Jaws. It's actually a small little underwater scene that's in AI, which I think is actually
Oh,
really
yeah.
effective. It's the one that's in the swimming pool where David, who is
Oh, I
played
thought
by-
you were going to say the very, very end when the pod is like under the ocean. And
Yeah, that's
Meryl Streep
that's
swims up to him and
what I like. No, well, that's spectacle and all. What I see, the scene I'm picking is the one that plays to my anxieties about being under the water, and it's the scene by the swimming pool in the first act where David, who is a little AI robot, is at the pool with other families and other real kids, and his mother is off in the distance kind of chatting. It's kind of like that anxiety of a parent as well, kind of you want to keep one eye on a kid, one eye on your, like, you know, kind of relax as well. But the other kids, there's one kid who's a kind of a bit of a bully, not total bully, realizes he's a robot and is like picks up a knife and says, "Oh, you know, do you have DOS, like a defense system?" And David's going, "What do you mean?" I don't know. And he says, "Oh yeah, it's like
I remember the scene now.
yeah, it's when he says, "Oh, DOS is like,
So
you know,
cruel.
when they know they have a kind of a self-defense system where they know if they're going to get hurt, they'll know to pull back." And just wonder, do you have it? So he's like going to stab David with a knife, Haley Joel Osment, and Haley Joel Osment is just terrified. So what he does is he clings to his stepbrother or his little surrogate brother.
Does he have DOS?
DOS what?
DOS is good. Damage avoidance system. DOS. It's a pain alert system. Our serving man has it. It's so they don't go picking up fire with their bare hands and stuff. Watch. Watch this. Now, I'm not gonna cut you. This isn't gonna hurt. I'm not gonna cut your skin. Just tell me when you feel it.
Keep me safe, Martin. Keep me safe. Let me go! Keep me safe, Martin. Let me go! Mom! Mom! Mom!
Henry!
And clings to him and says, "Please help me, help me, help me." And he backs back, and the two of them like back so far they drop into the pool, and David is just clinging onto his stepbrother as he plunges to the bottom of the pool. And all the parents have to jump in and pull him, extract him, like physically unclench his arms from around his stepbrother as he desperately clings onto him for safety. I found that it hit my anxiety buttons with regard to being underwater and being trapped and held down underwater. And it also is a pivotal moment in his story because it's the make or break event which makes him...
Where they decide to get rid of him.
Yeah, it's not safe to have him around. And it's so sad because he was only doing it. He wasn't doing it in any way. And there was no sense of cruelty on his part or meanness. It was just...
I need to revisit that film. I've not seen it since it came out.
I think it's time for a revisit, a proper full revisit of that film now that there's enough 20 years have passed plus. So it's time just to reassess it and have a look again.
It's probably something that will play very differently for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some other ones here. I'm going to focus on swimming pools for a little bit.
Perfect segue.
Yeah, because I don't want us to do submarines.
No.
Because I think if you're encased in something and you're walking around, you're breathing air, that doesn't really fit the brief. For me, it's like the actor has to get wet, submerged in water. Even though these days they don't really do it anymore. Like that whole Aquaman film, it was all shot dry for wet.
Yeah.
So they would CG in the hair to be floating ethereally around them, but for the most part, they were just on sound stages. Although, to give Cameron his credit, he didn't do that with Avatar, even though the whole film is like digitally rendered.
Yeah.
That was the only film that I've seen that brought me back to what it was like scuba diving off the Great Barrier Reef.
Your experiences, your positive experiences scuba diving really helped you with that film.
Yeah, like in that film, I fucking loved that he made a whale an action character and he gave that character a storyline. I know some people were rolling their eyes and going like, oh my God, he's not only jumped the shark, he's jumped the whale here. But I loved it. I thought that was such a commendable thing and no other filmmaker would do that. and treat it seriously. They would make it a piss take, some sort of like goofy thing, like an Aquaman, like Octopus is playing the drums or whatever. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Swimming pool ones.
Yes.
The Graduate.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That taps into my feeling of being underwater, away from everybody, feeling that peaceful disconnect where you're almost dreaming and not wanting to come up to deal with your problems. So I related to that.
And describe that one. That's the one where he just drops at the bottom of the swimming
underwater.
pool. Yeah. Well, I know it's underwater, but like what's happening around that scene?
Nothing really happens. It's him diving on. There's a lot of sort of like images that will come to mind when you think of underwater scenes, but I can't pinpoint the films because they've been used so much. So you were talking about bullets earlier on, but it's like, in Bond or something, underwater, the bullets just through the water.
Yeah.
Or being underwater and seeing legs kicking in the different bathing suits and stuff, and you're swimming between legs or whatever. But in that, he's just under the water. He's looking up at the distorted faces, and it's just it's a moment of reflection for the character. But there's not really any plot point to it.
Yeah,
it's just cool.
Yeah, it's a space. He's leaving the normal world and going under for what? What other pool related scenes do you have?
Well, then you've got the comedic version of that in Old School when Will Ferrell tranquilizes himself.
Oh God, I haven't thought of that in ages. Oh my God, go on.
Yeah, he tranquilizes himself and he falls into the pool at this kid's party, and the same music is playing, and it's sort of a riff on that, but it's very funny.
Very good.
What kind of gun is this? That's a tranquilizer gun. If any of these little fuckers decide to freak out on the kids, I get to take them down. Ain't that right, mother? Oh, what? That's what I thought. Shut up. Hey, be careful with that. From a... Ow! Yes! That's awesome! What? You just took one in the jugular, man! You should pull that out.
That shit is not cool. Wait. Pull what out? The dart, man. Got a fucking dart in your neck. You're crazy, man. You're crazy. I like you. But you're crazy. I feel tired.
And then, of course, probably the best one of these that I can think of is from Let the Right One In.
Oh, well, that's a fantastic pick. Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it?
Primarily shot from under the water, isn't it? That whole... You're with the kid.
The boy's being held underwater. I still don't understand the physics of it. He's being pushed under the water by the bullies. So you've got the hand holding him down. And then in the background, somebody's feet falling into the water, being pulled along. You see blood falling into the water, and then the arm of... So you know that something chaotic is happening on the surface.
Yeah.
But you're left to interpret it based on the brief glimpses of things breaching the water. And then the arm sort of slowly falls past him where it's been severed.
Yeah.
And he comes up and his bullies have been demolished by that vampiric boy-girl creature, we'll say.
You're absolutely right. The only thing that throws that moment is when you start thinking about the logic of what's happening with the person who's holding him down. But it is so impressive. You know, as you talked about the fear of what's happening under the surface, this is the fear of what's happening above the surface. And it's far more affecting that we don't see it, that we're with his point of view throughout that. And that's an excellent choice.
There's a very, very brief sequence in True Lies that sort of evokes that as well, where Annie dives under the water.
Yeah.
And he's shot the biggest flamethrower to ever exist in cinema history. And it sort of set the surface of the water on fire, and he's swimming under it and having to get past the point where the sea is burning. And it's a cool shot. And I remember when they shot that, he was in a pool, and of course the water was actually on fire above him.
Yeah.
So,
that
reminded me of that.
That image popped into my head earlier on when we were chatting about stuff that I actually had that one. I was like, that's a fantastic image. Absolutely fantastic.
You know what is actually a genuinely scary one? And you've just reminded me. in Damien 2.
I haven't seen Damien 2 since my black and white days.
I love that film.
Yeah.
Damien 2 is fucking brilliant, and it sort of ups the ante in terms of the Final Destination, like death scenes that happen. Also, Final Destination has a brilliant one in a swimming pool where somebody gets sucked into the drain.
Oh God!
Through their arse.
I think I've seen all those Final Destination films. I don't remember that one. Oh wow!
Yeah, I think their arse gets suctioned onto the bottom of the pool, and it pulls their insides up from through their bum hole.
Oh Jesus Christ!
But in Damien 2, they're ice skating on a frozen lake. And as happens in those films, they're almost like unlucky accidents.
Yeah.
So you can't really pinpoint it on Damien. Damien's like 13 at this stage. The ice gives way under one of the guys who's playing, plunges under it, and he is being pulled along with the current under the ice shelf, and William Holden and everybody else is like running along the ice and trying to break it as this guy is being sucked away off into the abyss.
God damn it. Every time we talk, I am always adding stuff to my watch list because you've just made me want to watch that again. And I've only ever seen it in black and white, but it's very much in my head. I'm putting that in my watch list. It's going to be one of those ones I'm going to dredge back up again. You know what you were reminding me of, because you were talking about that image of someone being under the ice. There's one from the most recent Bond movie, No Time to Die, where someone's under the ice. There's also one from Skyfall at the very, very end where Daniel Craig, he's at the
Eva
Skyfall
Mendes.
Ranch.
No, Eva Green.
Oh yeah, well that's the first one in Casino
Royale.
Royale.
Casino Royale. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, Casino Royale is a big pivotal moment where she's trapped underwater. There's the one from Skyfall where he's under the ice. That popped into my head. But there's a whole load of underwater action scenes and fight scenes in the Bond films.
Yeah, there's a lovely moment in, is it Bourne Supremacy?
Second
the opening scene when Maria gets shot in the head.
Yes.
And he kisses her goodbye, and he sort of pushes her away, and she floats off in this disgusting green sewage-filled river. But it's a very evocative image. Sort of, it's a peaceful way to say goodbye to a character. Also, they shouldn't have killed off that character. She was so fucking brilliant in the first film that to fridge her in the second one, I'll never be on board with it. Yeah.
What always amazes me is not just the act that, they're filming a scene underwater, but that these actors have to give a performance underwater. And I'm just thinking of that specific shot with Matt Damon kissing her goodbye and the anguish he has to perform through his face in his performance. It really comes across very, very genuine. But I'm also thinking about the whole, God, you're underwater, and how difficult is that to do underwater? I don't know.
Do you ever see those? Well, maybe you haven't, but in Disneyland, they will have actresses or performers dressed up as mermaids, and if the kids come along, they're looking into a fish tank, and the mermaid is swimming around, and she's performing as Ariel or whatever. But they will, they're going up every so often, maybe every 3 or 4 minutes to take a gulp of air and go back down again. But they're having to keep their eyes open underwater, and that is hard to do. Even though nowadays they'll have contacts in and stuff to sort of give some protective barrier. But anytime I see people underwater with their eyes open, I know that that's incredibly uncomfortable, and you can't see shit. You can't see anything. So it's really just done for the appearance of them looking at you, but they can't see anything.
Oh God. Oh yeah. More reasons to not be under the water.
That's all the swimming pool ones, really, to be honest. But there was one I forgot to mention at the start of the episode. Creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954.
I've not seen this.
You'll recognise the iconography of it because there are shots, well, the opening of Jaws, where Chrissy's swimming across the surface and you're seeing the silhouette of her. There are shots in the original Creature from the Black Lagoon that are very similar, so you can feel like Spielberg probably referenced that as something. We need to get that kind of a shot.
Okay.
So you have this woman who's swimming in the daylight in the lagoon, and the creature from the Black Lagoon is down in the bottom. He's in a full suit in the reeds, and he swims up, and he is basically swimming alongside her, and he is, mirroring her, and it's almost like the way a dolphin would play with somebody. And he is reaching out to almost touch her, and she doesn't know that it's beneath her. It's just a push and pull, almost a dance of him wanting to snatch her or touch her or engage with her. But it's about a 3 or 4 minute sequence, and it's beautiful and really impressive. But yeah, it's worth bringing up.
Oh, I'm going to... I actually think...
Because it's a guy in a full prosthetic suit. Guy's holding his breath and swimming around wearing a full mask and stuff.
I actually think I actually have that on Blu-ray. There's a bunch of... Got it as a box set, and it was one of those ones that I have yet to watch. You know what I find? You can't not bring up the big battle that happens underwater in Thunderball, which was, I know, a huge undertaking. And I think, I can't remember the name of the unit who actually went off and did it, but like it was something that was planned extensively. It was a massive operation. It was a huge amount of money to actually make, because there were so many players involved and all these different underwater devices, which are very exciting still to watch, to see all these little kind of like underwater motors.
It's so expensive. Like the minute that you try and do anything underwater, even if it's like on the surface of the water, your insurance and all the liabilities that come into play, it just ramps up the budget massively.
Yeah. So that got me thinking about, I was talking about like how impressive it is to see actors give performances underwater. And then I was thinking about, well, Jesus, acting's one thing. It's just, expression with your body and face. Physically fighting underwater. It's unfathomable. I can't
unfathomable.
It's unfathomable. I can't pronounce it.
It's unfathomable.
Okay.
What was it you were saying? Skippy.
It's difficult for me to imagine.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
It is unfathomable. There you go. This is me and my tongue. My tongue doesn't allow me to say certain words.
Unfathomable.
It's very difficult for me. Stop
lipping your licks then. And I just did it. Stop lipping your licks. Stop licking your lips. Then.
It's very difficult for me to imagine how they go about executing. Not even.
Do you think we have brain damage?
Not just. Well, when
Did you get knocked out as a kid?
I'm trying to. Let me get this out.
This is stuff people like. People love it when I interrupt.
Oh, they love it. It's fight scenes underwater, Kevin. I find those very, very impressive. So yeah. Off the back of Thunderball. But then there was one in Police Story 4 with Jackie Chan, right? And I saw this sequence where it's in...
I've not seen this, I don't think.
It's fucking cool. It's this one that you can just easily just look up on YouTube. It's set in an aquarium, and Jackie is pushed into a big tank with sharks in a really huge tank. The fight scene happens all underwater. It involves sharks, it involves props, but you know the way in Jackie Chan's movies, he always brings comedy and physical, astounding feats into his performance.
He's like a circus performer.
He does all that stuff underwater. Like, you were laughing at some of the choreography and the way he takes the punches. And, it's just, I can't describe it well enough. You really just have to see it.
It's like a Looney Tunes sequence.
Yeah, there is that. But he's doing it underwater. Like they're throwing punches and kicks and blocks and all that sort of stuff underwater. But then getting in like gags where he gets hit in the head or he's dodging something, and they use the the environment in inventive ways there as well. So I'm saying that was a delight to watch, a real delight to watch. There's another fight underwater that I thought was good from a film that I thought I would never, ever bring up on the show. And it's the climax of Lethal Weapon 4, the fight between Mel Gibson and Jet Li.
Oh, is that the dock where they fall into the water?
Murtaugh impales him with rebar. Then Riggs, it's so, now when I look at it, so horrific. It's like swinging him around like a kebab, And the two of them, the actual dock collapses underneath them. The two of them plunge into the water. I felt the anxiety of them being in the water in that one as well, where he ends up blowing them away with an AK-47. That little moment in the film that's not very good actually was kind of impressive, I will say that. But the best fight scene underwater, without a doubt, and up to this point, up to yesterday, would have been my best pick, is the fight scene in Top Secret, the underwater fight scene.
When you're talking about Jackie Chan, that's what I'm picturing. That's a brilliant spoof sequence.
Oh, it's fucking amazing.
It's like an old-timey Western underwater.
Yeah, and it gets more and more elaborate. Like, you know, first of all, they're down there and just like throwing punches. And then a bar appears behind them where there's a saloon owner and he's like cleaning the counter and checking the glasses. There's guys.
He breaks a bottle off someone's head.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Smash. You cut away and there's 4 cowboys playing poker at a table. And when the fighting starts going, they duck. They all drop and duck underneath the table, but their hats are still floating in the water. There's even like even as he's leaving, as Val Kilmer is leaving, he turns around and there's a dame like leaning up against the counter. And blows him a kiss and says, "Hey boy," you know, all this sort of stuff. And they all give amazing performances, funny comedic performances, but then the actual physical sight gags, it's just mind-boggling to me how they pulled it off. I'm looking at it going, how the fuck did you actually do it? Oh, he punches him through a window and he ends up being pulled. The bad guy ends up being fired through a window. And Val Kilmer's performance in that, he's still charismatic. Even underwater, he still gets the same swagger as you would imagine he would do with the same scene if it was on dry land. So just very, very, very impressive. It's way up there for me. Top scene. It's not my favorite pick, but it's close to the top of my best picks for this topic.
Thank you.
So at the start of the episode, we talked about sharks and me swimming with sharks. There's 2 brilliant shark sequences that we have to mention. One would have been my pick, but I used Jaws for like best SFX scene. And for that reason, I'm not going to mention the cage scene in Jaws. But of course, that is fucking phenomenal. And one of the standout sequences in Spielberg's masterpiece.
Yeah.
We don't really have to explain it. You all know what that's like. Richard Dreyfuss goes into the water. He tells Roy Scheider, "I've no spit." And Roy Scheider does that really disgusting thing of taking his spectacles and putting the ear hook into his mouth.
Yeah.
And I always go like, ugh, Jesus Christ, that can't be sanitary.
No.
He goes in and the shark makes shit of the cage and he just about barely makes out. So many jump scares. It's incredible to see how they pulled it off. They went back and shot so much of it in Verna Field's swimming pool.
Oh, okay.
To get insert shots. You can see it online, I think, how they did that. But a brilliant sequence. But the other one I want to mention is from a smaller film that came out a few years back called 47 Meters Down, where these 2 girls
mentioned, go on.
They go into I think they're in a cage at the beginning of the film.
Right.
It breaks off, they sink to the bottom, and they need to get from the bottom to the top, but the water is riddled with sharks and it is pitch dark.
Right.
And they're barely in communication with the surface. And it's one of those sort of like single location intense films, a survival story. But there's a moment in it where they brave it, or at least one of them does, because I think the other one is injured. So Mandy Moore starts her ascent, and when you're 47 meters down, you can't, and they tell you this when you're scuba diving as well, you can't rapidly descend. You have to slowly make your way up so that your body can adjust to the change in pressure and the oxygen in your blood and all that kind of stuff. So she has to sort of hold her position at certain points as she's going up. You can't see anything. You know that there are big 20-foot sharks, and there is a jump scare in it which legitimately scared the bejesus out of me, where she lights up the flare, and in the darkness, it's like the scene in Alien, you know, where Tom Skerritt turns around with the flamethrower and you just see the alien go like, surprise!
Yeah.
I think it's like 3 or 4 great whites facing her with their mouths agape. And that is pure nightmare fuel. So I thought I'd mention that.
I don't know. I put it on my watch list. And then as you described, I went, I don't know if I'm going to watch that. I don't know. I've one.
At least watch that sequence.
I've one to mention. It's on a lot of lists, and I said, I'm going to give it a mention, but it's definitely not my main pick. It's an impressive sequence and a very entertaining series of films, which we both enjoy. It's the underwater scene from Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I don't love it.
Tom Cruise nearly killed himself to do it.
Yes. I am so impressed that Tom Cruise he's one of those actors, he held his breath for 6 minutes to do a lot of these shots, because
Only 6 minutes.
It was, but
I would have thought he would have gone for like 20.
Yeah, I think it was over 6 minutes. But as they were describing, because I watched the making of for this stuff, like in the most recent one, Dead Reckoning Part 1, the making of these sequences is sometimes far more impressive than the actual finished sequence itself. And unfortunately, I think with the Rogue Nation underwater scenes where Ethan Hunt has to go into this reactor, which is underwater, and swap out a card for another card, reasons. But the problem is I think the finished film,
the shooting it is more impressive than the film version.
Exactly, because there's so many CG elements, and also they're cutting away, so it almost cuts away from the tension of you holding your breath. Whereas, which you knew when you watched them behind the scenes, you can see he has to go underwater, hold his breath for a minute to get into position while all the cameras get set up and ready to go. So he's holding his breath. He also then has to wait for the bubbles to clear. So we've got a couple of minutes pass. And then he has to do a single take, which go for another couple of minutes. And then he has, until they say cut, then the safety divers come in and can give him oxygen. And that is so, when you see them do that, and you see him holding his breath for that length of time to create one of these shots, it gives me the anxiety where I'm going, oh God, get out of there. It's not worth it. I don't need to see it underwater. Do someplace else. It's fine. But it's so fucking impressive. It really, really is.
That was like the helo jump in one of those films. I can't remember. They all feel interchangeable at this stage from the third one onwards. But the helo jump, which he actually did, I think they did like 20 different jumps to get the sequence on camera. And then when you see it, it's so heavily slathered in CG that it's like, why bother? You could have just had him in one of those wind tunnels and just faking it, because it would look as believable as what they did.
Yeah.
So
you're seeing the
you can
CG.
shoot yourself in the foot by trying to add too much artifice on top of something that was incredibly impressive naturally.
Exactly. But, despite that, it still is a very impressive sequence and an amazing feat by him to actually pull off. He's really exerting himself in those moments as well. He's not just floating around the place and stuff like that. He's pulling and dragging and, and getting whacked around the place. That's a really good one.
Nailed it.
I was talking previously about Tom Cruise holding his breath for a long, 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 long time. And my best pick would have been the fight scene from Top Secret, until yesterday, where I watched a documentary which came out last year, which I should have watched last year, but only got to yesterday. It's a documentary which has made by an Irish filmmaker and actually features an Irish main protagonist, and it's called The Deepest Breath.
Freediving is one of the world's deadliest extreme sports.
It's very simple. The deepest dive wins.
You've got to swim the length of a 70-story skyscraper.
3, 2, 1.
Freediving is an extreme sport. And extreme sports have extreme consequences.
I've not heard of this.
Oh, Kevin. Oh my God, you have to watch this. Okay, so The Deepest Breath is a documentary made by Irish filmmaker Laura McGann, and it is a story of two main characters. One is an Italian freediving champion called Alessia Zecchini.
I'm Alessia Zecchini and I'm from Italy. Even when she was young, Alessia had some supernatural power with freediving. She wanted to become the deepest woman in the world.
And like you were describing, someone who was drawn to the sea from when she was tiny and wanted to spend her life under the water, just swimming amongst the fishes. Then she got competitive and she learned of this thing called free diving, which is it's where you go, you see how long you can go basically on one single breath, back and forth. And it's that
would freak me out.
Yeah, it's a proper sport. I didn't realize it was such a huge sport, actually. And so there's world tournaments and stuff like that happen all over the place. But the other character that's in it is actually an Irish man called Stephen Keenan. And his story is really affecting as well, because the film creates a portrait of both of these individuals from childhood up. And he was a guy who grew up near the water. And he was like his dad is saying, he was always drawn to the water. And he was always asking about, what's this thing over here? What's that thing? And he was mad to get into water as well. But even as he was becoming a young man, he was like you, backpacking. And he was always searching for something. He never kind of found his place in the world. He like...
Is that me?
No, not like you. But like what I'm saying, he had this impulse where he wanted to go to the Congo to meet gorillas. And he went and did this incredible adventure out to actually sit with wild silverbacks and all this sort of stuff. Just traveled all over the world, but felt like he was a soul that never found peace and his place in the world. And he was just about to he spent years traveling, and he was just about to kind of give up and come back and get a proper job and settle down, where he stopped in this place in Egypt called Dahab. And it's a little seaside resort where they do free diving. And it's a place that's just off the beach. It's a vast cave that's a couple of 100 meters deep. And there's, I think, maybe 50 or 60 meters down. There's an archway which you can swim through, which is about 50 meters. And you can come out the other side. And only a handful of freedivers have ever actually successfully completed the arch and come out the other side. Like, people have died doing this. He gets a passion for freediving from it. And he becomes the world's best safety diver for these competitions. This dude is the guy who has saved multiple lives at these competitions. And all I'm saying is, I think you should watch this film. I'm not going to spoil anything.
Okay, well, don't tell me too much. So
I want to describe one shot, and you're talking about you've kind of favorite underwater scene, and this won't spoil anything. But the scene I'm going to just want to highlight here is the opening shot, and it's watching a freediver going down. And we start with them on the surface, and they start descending. They start going down a rope. They obviously take a deep breath at the top, and they just go down by a rope, down, through the light aqua blue, all the way down into, as the blue gets deeper and deeper, in past the reef, and they descend into full-on darkness, full-on complete darkness. And you can just, they have a torch in their head.
That sounds haunting.
But I want to tell you, when they reach the bottom, they start coming back up. And as they're coming back up, you see them exerting, pulling themselves back up this rope. And you can see it just getting lighter and lighter and lighter again. But then, like meters, we're talking 2 meters, they just stop. And then the safety divers are in.
Oh, because they've got to equalize and...
No, they don't stop. No, they don't have to equalize. This is the thing. You don't have to equalize in this because it's on one breath. They've lost. They've gone. The person's gone. They're out.
They're dead.
They're dead. So they black out.
They're dead. You're real. So they're dead.
This is the opening shot of the film. The safety diver comes in and grabs them and pulls them up to the surface. And the shot, this is all one camera shot. And you see the person's face, the expression on their face, the lifeless eyes, is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying.
There's that famous picture, isn't there, of that free dive? Maybe it's from that free diver who is at the surface, and is it an embolism they have? There's something that goes on, but he took one gasp of breath and then his eyes roll back and he just looks glassy and pallid, and you can just tell you're looking at somebody who's dying.
Their brain is shut off. The brain is shut off. It's got but anyway, I'm just saying,
flip that switch.
This is one of these, it's a life affirming story. I want to say that about this particular documentary. It's a life affirming story to passionate people who found their passion in life, and they just drank up every drop of life while they have it. But to do it, they're putting their lives under, every time they go down, they're putting their lives on the line.
Steve had this massive reputation as the best safety diver ever.
If a diver wants to feel secure, they're very happy diving with someone that they're familiar with.
He believed in Alessia, and so he started training with her.
Alessia and Steve, they had a very special connection.
Hello.
It was just a really good match.
This amazing lady is going to win the World Championships.
Alessia was after the world record, so she was going to push her limits. She wanted to be better than the best freediver ever.
When you push close to a limit, a lot can go wrong.
Yeah, I just found that to be really powerful and deeply unsettling. So that's my pick, The Deepest Breath.
So my pick is from...
In 1984, director James Cameron thrilled audiences with his vision of the future, The Terminator. In 1986, he created the science fiction masterpiece, Aliens. This summer, he will take you into a world no man has ever seen before.
The Abyss. When I was going through all my picks, I immediately came upon this one, and I couldn't be dissuaded by everything else because it's a film where the filmmakers went through absolute hell to pull it off, and the cast no longer speak to the director.
The Abyss. Believe your eyes.
You will never see Ed Harris or Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio talk about this film because they had such a falling out with James Cameron that they refused to speak about it. It is, in my eyes, Cameron's most personal film because it includes everything that he has proven himself to be incredibly passionate about: the sea, special effects, the military, science, the environment, and it's hung on a marriage in trouble. And he has a fantastic, strong female lead in it, again, with Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio's character. The sequence is the moment where, after a battle with Michael Biehn's character, who's gotten the bends and he's gone slightly crazy, their submersible is damaged and there's no way to get both of them back to the deep core that they need to swim to. So the only decision they have is for her to drown and for him to drag her lifeless body from the submersible back to the rig and then try and revive her. And it's the themes of the story sort of coalescing at that point. It's a fantastic sequence.
We got to get you out of here.
How?
I don't know how.
All right, we've only got one suit.
I know, but we've got to come up with
Oh my God, I'm freezing.
Listen, you're smart. Think of something. Can't you think of something? Think of something.
Okay, why don't you swing back to the rig and bring back another suit?
All right. Here. You put this on.
No, what are you doing? You don't listen.
Don't argue with me, goddammit. Just put it on.
Look, this is not an option, so just forget about
Lindsay,
it, all right?
shut up!
No.
Shut up! Put this thing on.
You'd be logical for one
Stop
second.
logic!
Please, listen. Just listen to me for 1 second. Now, you've got the suit on, and you're a much better swimmer than I am, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Right? Yes. So I've got a plan.
What's the plan?
I drowned and you tow me back to the rig.
No.
Yes, this water.
No.
Only a couple of degrees above freezing. I go into deep hypothermia. My blood will go like ice water. Right? My body systems will slow down. They won't stop.
Vince.
You tow me back and I can be revived after maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Lindsay, put this on.
15 minutes.
You put it on.
It's the only way. You just put this on. Put this on. You know I'm right. Please. It's the only way. You've got all the stuff on the rig to do this. Put this on. But please.
This is insane.
Oh my God. I know.
You okay?
It's the only way.
Here, hold this. Hold on.
You can do this, you know. You can do this.
Oh, God, Lindsay.
I know. You can tell me later.
She drones, they kiss, he drags her back. They had to shoot that for real. It wasn't done dry for wet, it wasn't CGI. They were in that massive tank.
Yeah. Was it a reactor core or something like that? Was it some fucking nuclear reactor core they shot it in or something? I can't remember. It was crazy.
Yes, one that had been shut down and was no longer used. Yeah, and that sequence where he's trying to revive her and he's beating on her chest was the moment where Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio walked off set and said, "We're not animals." And she reached her limit. But by God, they went through hell to make it, but the film itself, for me, as someone who grew up on studio fare, is just heaven. And it's such a terrific yarn. It holds up so well. It feels timeless because it's so sort of separate from anything that could date it. You know, they're down in a rig. Rigs don't change that much. The characters are in wetsuits. They don't change that much. The themes of it are universal. It feels a little quaint in that it's so sincere, and it has a lot of the Cameron-isms that you'd expect. It's sort of blue-collar badass dialogue. film wrapped up just under 3 hours, and I swear I could have watched another 3 hours of it. It's such a brilliant film, and that sequence for me utilizes, well, the whole film utilizes everything about being underwater, but that sequence alone I think is spectacular. So that's my pick.
And a brilliant pick it is too. It would have been my pick, only that I was pretty certain it was going to be on your list somewhere. I love that sequence. It really gets you. You feel her drowning, and you feel the panic that they feel on the dry dock to try and bring her back to life. It's something else.
If you watch the behind the scenes of it, which is a brilliant documentary because they don't really pull any punches, they sort of let you know that it was pure hell. She is being pulled along, and they're so far down that they have to have safety divers all around that have to do what we were talking about: swim straight up to her and stuff the regulator into her mouth and have her take a breath, and then back to one and do it again, then back to one and do it again. But yeah, it's a phenomenal film, and if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and revisit it. You won't be disappointed. So, Will, this was a fantastic topic. When we got it recommended to us, I thought, yeah, that's interesting. There's something we can do with that. But then when I was really sitting down to think about it, I thought, this is a fucking fantastic topic, and I've loved it.
Yep.
So thank you, Jules.
Yep.
And if you want to recommend a topic to us, you can do by going to bestbitspodcast.com/contact and drop us your suggestions. But we got a couple in so far, and one of them I want to read out now for you because I think now might be the right time to do it.
Okay, tell me what it is.
Rather than spinning the wheel.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to those Patreon episodes that were recommended for us pretty soon, but because we're coming up on March.
Oh, lordy.
So this comes into us from, so I think his name is Michal. It's Michal. That's Michal, isn't it?
That's Michal. Yeah, that's Michal.
But then Michal Martin is Michel. And that's also Michal.
My buddy's kid is Michal, and he's that's how he pronounces it. He's spelled the same way as you just spelled it out to me there. So it's Michal.
So both of them are Michal.
Yep.
Okay, so this is from Michal. He says, "Hello lads, love the podcast. Ye asked for some recommendations, so here's one for ye. Best Irish scene. I'd love to hear your thoughts on films from home. Surely Cork legend Michael Collins will get a mention, or maybe one of your own films. Keep up the good work here, gas crack." From Michael.
Michal.
Thanks, Michael.
Oh, lordy.
Michal also sent in a picture, and I have to say, I'll give him 3 out of 10. No, I'm joking. It's another 8.5 out of 10. We've got some gorgeous looking listeners.
Oh, this is a topic which we've thought about in the past.
Avoided.
Said, no, we won't do it. But you know what? I think if we do it just from a point of view of, not from films from people we know, but from the stuff that have maybe influenced us and stuff that we inspired us, I think maybe that's a better approach.
You don't want to stick the knife in. You don't want to go after anybody.
Why would I? If we're the best bits, why would we go and do best? Why would we go best shits?
I know, but it's the person with the mic who's in charge. We can finally put right to wrong, or put wrongs right, or whatever the fuck. We can finally get the boot in. Yeah, no, there's been so many great Irish films. Yeah, we've been avoidant of this for the specific reason that I think we could annoy a lot of people that we know, or it might be a very popular topic because people might listen to it in order to see if we do,
But I would be
anybody.
Friends would be like going, "Why didn't you pick my film? Why didn't you pick my film?" So my way of approaching the topic is I'm going to go with the films that inspired me coming up through the ranks for my kids. But Irish films made me feel.
But there's also great films that are quite recent. So I'm not just going to go that route because
he's finally
quite
going to
young
watch
and
Wolfwalkers. He's finally going to watch Wolfwalkers.
But that's a British film.
Oh my!
They're all English in that.
God! Oh my God! Oh lordy lord!
There you go.
All the bad.
It's one of my favourite English animated films. Sean Bean isn't bad.
He's kind of bad.
Go on. Right. So, If you want to hear more from us, we're also on Patreon. The link is in the show notes. We're putting out extra episodes every month. It's at least one a month, sometimes 2 a month. They're good crack. You'll hear a clip from the latest one at the end of this episode. Also, please rate and review us if you haven't done so already. It helps with engagement for the podcast, which then sort of helps others who might be listening to something else see us get recommended to them as something that they may like based on you liking us. So please do that if you are a fan of the podcast. And thank you for listening. For sure. Will, it was great to chat as usual.
Yeah.
And thank you, Micheál, for that recommendation.
I enjoyed the topic, and I am looking forward to our next conversation about best Irish films. See ya.
Slán go fóill.
Very good. All right.
Bye.
Chat to you next time.
The Best Bits podcast is produced by Will and Kevin. All audio clips and music heard in this episode is the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a Patreon member, where you'll receive bonus shows where we talk about recent releases and what we're up to. And you'll receive access to our Discord chat room, where we hang out with our listeners. Search the Best Bits podcast on Patreon or click on the link in the show notes.
And here is a clip from the lads' latest Mini Bits bonus show. The full episode, plus 100 more, are available on their Patreon.
You're waking up with Hot Cock and the Cup. With Will and Kev. Boring as a long breakfast with the best bits.
How are you, Will? Another Mini Bits.
Another Mini Bits. I'm a little bit off colour, a bit jet lagged, and I also have a bit of a cold.
Jesus.
But I am more than happy to get on the mic and tell you all about the chaos and adventure of the last week plus.
Before you do that, just before we came on, I was like humming there, because sometimes I need to like open up my throat in order to get on mic. Because I can often hear when we do episodes, if I am anxious, and I can then hear in my audio,
a little bit tight.
Like, my voice start to get a little bit more constricted, and I'm like, "Oh, right, is that true, Will? Okay." And I'm like, so I was like, I was listening to Karen Carpenter, who is my favorite singer of all time. Like the songs are awful, but her voice is fucking heavenly.
We start out walking and learn to.
She's such a fucking beautiful singer. I was wondering, do you have any favourite singers? Because I don't know who you like listening to.
Oh, man.
Not saying that I like listening to Karen Carpenter, but it just came into my head like, why do birds suddenly appear? Yeah.
I have a very eclectic taste. I have actually loads of different modes of listening. It all depends on the situation. For me, I'm all very much a situational kind of like listener. If I'm pottering around in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
I always have to have music on in the background, okay? But I don't...
Lyric FM, let's shout out Lyric FM, because they were the first radio station to give us a shout out.
Aideen Gormley's music from the movies show, which I think it plays every weekend.
Which is lovely, yeah.
It's a brilliant show. So when I'm listening down below pottering away, Lyric FM isn't my go-to, but it's one of my kind of like alts. But my main go-to is RTE Gold. Okay, it's a digital-only channel. It's a digital-only channel. It's so defunded that they don't even bother advertising on it. And they only have a DJ kind of working for a couple of hours in a day. But the rest of it is like programmed hits. It's just programmed easy listening kind of like music. Not even listening. It's just like, just good music from all the way back to all the way up to now, you know?
Everybody in the house on a party night, scream it back to me.
It's great.
Is anybody from Red FM listening to us? Would you ever give us a fucking shout out, for fuck's sake?
I've been on Red FM a few times promoting stuff.
Have you?
Yeah.
I was on Red FM. I was on it as well to promote Grabbers, actually, with Vic Barry.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Do you know what? Did I ever tell you these stories? The RTE is a mad place altogether. They don't prep you for anything. So I was twice now just dropped into a studio to do a live link, and nobody told me anything about what was happening or what was going on. And it was just, you're going live on national radio in 3, 2, 1. And I'm like,
what?
This can't be. What? There's not even anybody in the room with me. There's like an old ancient engineer like pottering around outside who's just like, grand.
Yeah.
And he fucked off. And I'm like, what in the fuck? And then I'm trying to like banter with a DJ as he's like doing a segue from and the traffic on the streets, and now we have a writer from blah blah blah, Kevin. And I'm like, holy shit.
What the fuck?
That happened to me in RTE Cork, and it also happened in Dublin, where this old fella took me all the way down to the basement in RTE.
Yeah.
And it was down this labyrinthine corridor, set me into a studio, and he walked out and closed the door. And I sat in there and I thought, what am I doing? Like, and I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. I put on the headphones and I started like messing about.
It's not like you. Not like you, Kevin, to mess about.
And so I was like, how are you, Neil? Listen, Neil, I'm having awful trouble inside work.
Oh, no.
And suddenly the phone rang in the studio and I picked it up, and it was like this girl from Belfast. And she was like, Kevin, it's bloody blah. We're hearing you on our end, but you don't seem to be hearing us. And I thought, what?
Oh, shit.
She's been listening to me, like sitting in a room by myself thinking, I'll pretend to be Neil Prendeville. Yeah,
God.
But I cut you off. You were talking about your favourite.
No, I want to
stations.
Chime in on that, because we've gone on a tangent and a tangent and a tangent. I remember doing one for
That's
RT.
not like us.
I know, for RT, and it was and I had to go up to the Donegal RT studio, which was up in Letterkenny. And I was driving around, was like, where the fuck is this fucking place I'm supposed to be at? And it was like an industrial...
A shed.
No, it wasn't a shed. It was like an industrial complex where, like, on one side there was like a place where you got drill bits. On the other side there was a hairdresser's, and there was a little like glass door to a small little unit. And I went in there, and that's where the microphone and shit was. I was like, oh, okay. And again, like that, it was like one person in the black room and a microphone. And I just sat down there and just kind of waited until I was like, said, okay, so what do you think of this? I've also been on, I think Red FM were actually good. I was on with, what's his name? Foley or something. Ray Foley, that's what he's called. But I was on another time, and I can't remember for what reason. And it was this girl, and she did this really long interview with me, and I was like going, Jesus, this girl's really interested. And I was just telling her stories, and it was a pre-record. And we were just chatting away, and I couldn't, like, she was really great to chat to. And she says, oh, that'll be out tomorrow between like 5 and 7. Okay. And it was like a drive time radio channel. And the next day I kind of says, right, I'm going to tune. I told them at home, I'm going to be on this channel. I don't know if it was Red FM or whatever other Cork radio it was. And so I was sitting down with my family waiting, and there she was. I was like, oh, there's the girl who interviewed me yesterday. She's the DJ on this. It was all like, drive time, like, young people, like, cool music and stuff like that. And she just kind of said, she kept teasing, and wait for it, we're going to be talking to screenwriter Will Collins, and here's a little teaser. And she like had a little soundbite for me.
Shit Talk with Ashling.
I can't finish the sentence. I can't finish a sentence. She kept dropping sound bites. She kept dropping sound bites for 2 hours to only climax at another sound bite.
People think I'm mad.
Shit Talk.
That's a proper hot cock in the cunt sort of radio show.
It was exactly like that. It was like, you could hear the music going, like, the dance music going in the background, and she would drop in, the way you drop in the music, and kind of like she would lower the music and she'd say something like pump it back up, and she'd drop it again.
Coming up in the next couple of minutes, we'll be talking to a writer there. His name's Bill Collins. Can't talk.
Fucking Putin.
Oh, it's so hard to listen to that stuff.